Hi guys, welcome to another video of our API automation series. In our last video, we have seen that how to implement Cucumber, how to add the Cucumber dependencies, and what is Cucumber, what is Gherkin keywords. All these things we have seen, and how to write the test cases, what is step definition. These are the things we have already seen, and how to connect with feature file and step definitions, right? How they are interlinked from each other, right? These are the things that we have seen in our last video. In today's video, we in our last video also we did not do any implementation in the step definition file, right? So if I go to this step definition methods, you can see here I have no implementation done, only just a blank method, right? So in today's class, in today's video, I'll be showing you that how to implement so that we should be able real time we should be able to perform this API test automation, right? So let's start from today's class. Okay, so as you can see that here we have seen that first step where we are saying that I have application URL, base URL, right? So base URL, you guys already know it is always going to be same for a particular application, right? So what you can do actually, if I go to my base URL, that step definition, there here you can see I have this class and here I have to set the base URL. Now, what you can do actually, the base URL for me, let's say I'm going to my IntelliJ, Postman tool. Here you can see this is my base URL, nothing but, right? So I can really copy it and I can set it over here, right? Or what you can do actually, you can ask user to pass the base URL, right? Everything is fine. But for now, what we can do as of now, our base URL is going to be same. Or what you can do actually, you can set a variable, you can create in constant class, and you can store the base URL there itself. So let me do that, right? So that would be a better approach instead of hard coding it inside the code. So we can see my project constant, right? So I am creating one class file called as project constant. Here I'll be having the values uh, of the parameters that I need, to use again and again. So let's say I'm saying public void public static, and the type is string, and I'll say base URI, right? So the value of the base URI is going to be this one. Okay, so this is my base URL, and I have to use this base URL there inside my test case, right? So what I can do actually, I can set the base URI value. Uh, so before I set, how to set the base URI, right? So if I take you to one of my previous implementations, so let's go to there itself. If I go to here, create user test, here you can see we are setting base URI in the response dot recessor dot given here. After that, once we call that recessor dot given, after that only we were setting the base URI. So we'll be following the same approach. What we will do, we will copy this recessor dot given, we will create an instance of it and save it into somewhere, so that we should be able to follow this setup one by one, right? So I will be copying it from here, and I'll go to my project. Here I'll create a project label, one of the variables. Let's say I'm storing it over here, right? uh, okay, so I'll be storing it into one variable. Let's say I'm saying request specification. I'll be taking help of request specification. Okay, so request specification, let's say I'm saying simply request. Okay, and dot request specification, request equals request receiver dot given, that is same thing that we are using. Now we'll be working with this instance only, right? So if I want to set the base URL, I'll be setting URL into this request part. If you want to set the header information, so header information, if you go to my previous classes, here you can see we are setting over here, right? Content type.json or somewhere. So this is all doing setup there inside of this particular call, right? Recessio dot given. So instead of recessio dot given, will be what we'll be using now? We'll be using this request reference. Okay, let me set the base URI. So if I'll say request dot, you can say base URI. You can here you can see that we are getting that option base URI, right? So base URI, I'll be picking the URI from this particular step project constant, right? So this is my one of the constant class where I have created a string and static variable, so I can directly call that particular variables from here, right? So what I'll do, I'll say project constant dot base URI, right? I can directly set here project constant dot base URI, right? So this is how I have done with the first step definition, that I have done with the setup of the base URI to this particular request object reference, right? So this is my first step definition done completed. Now the second part, here you can see we have this is the endpoint URL, and this endpoint URL I have to set. So what I can do actually, let's go to the implementation step definition here. If you come to here, you can see. Let me change this variable from string to, I'll say endpoint URL, right? That that seems more, you can say, significant, right? So what I can say, this is what endpoint URL we are going to get. So how do you use the endpoint URL? If you go to my previous implementation, here you can see we are doing passing the endpoint URL there in the request itself, right? If you are using any get request also or any other testing, so we are passing that if I go to any other, so here you can see we are passing the endpoint URL there in the get request, right? If you want, you can go ahead with this approach, or there are some other approach also we can use, right? So how can we use that? So let's see what if we get the option for, let's say if I say request dot endpoint URL, we are not getting. If I say URL, no, we are not getting anything. So what we can do actually, we can store this value, whatever value we are getting from the user feature file, that we can store into a string type of variable, right? So what you can say, let's store it into a string type of variable, and I'll say endpoint URL, right? And I can just assign endpoint URL, sorry, and point, what's happening, endpoint URL. Oh, both the URL name is same, so I'll say endpoint. Okay, so I'll say endpoint URL, right? Now this step definition part also completed, right? So now let's move to the next step definition. What do we need? We need to here, next part is to set the header information, right? So here you can see we have already, I have shown you that we can sometimes we can have only one single header information, sometimes you may need to pass multiple, say multiple value, right? For now, let's go ahead with the single value. Okay, uh, single implementation of, I mean the single parameter and single key and value of header information. So what you can do if you want to go ahead with this approach, so how we can achieve, how we can set the header value, right? So and also one more thing is how to use the header value. If you go to my API request, here you can see we are passing the header. This is one of the content type header information we are passing over here, right? So I'll show you another approach where we have used, let's say create user test uh, here inside of this header testing. Okay, here you can see we were passing the header information by using the header map itself, right? So let's say here we have used two different key and value pairs for header map, and we created a map, and that map we are passing there inside of headers. So similar things we can do. So if you go to my step definition here, this is my step definition, and this, let's say let me change this name. I'll say this one is key and this one is value, so it will be easy for understanding purpose. So now what I can say, that I'll say request dot header, right? If you say request dot header, you can directly set the key and value, right? So I'll say header. So header, here I have key and I'll set the value, right? This is one of the approach. You can go ahead with this approach and you can set the key and value pairs, right? But the problem is with this approach, guys, is that if you have multiple number of key and value pairs for your header information, let's say you have three or four number of key and value pairs, then this step you need to have repeat here in this approach. That will come to later, that uh, how to avoid this kind of situations, right? For now I'll be going with the single line of approach. And now I'll be talking about the, now we are done with this endpoint URL setup, base URL setup, we are done with the endpoint URL setup, and we are done with the header information setup, right? Now what we can do, now we can hit the get request, right? So I'll go to the implementation of get request. Here you can see, now if I say request, and here I have to say get, right? This get request I have to pass my base, I have to pass what I need to pass, I need to pass that endpoint URL, right? So that we can that endpoint URL we can use there in the uh, there in the particular reason. But my endpoint URL is defined over here. So you can see this is currently this endpoint URL. It is a locally available into this particular method, right? So, but I need to use this particular variable value there inside my another method. So how can we do that, right? That is the question. Now to do that, we should have defined this particular variable as a global or the in the class level, right? So instead of defining it over here, instead of making it instead of making it locally available to this method, we can define it as a uh, class level variable. So what I can do, I will just go to my class level and I'll say string endpoint URL. So now this variable is string type of variable is now globally available. I can use it anywhere in this class file, right? So I'll go to ahead here, and when I do the get request, I'll just pass the endpoint URL, right? Yeah, that's done. So what we can do actually, we are done with the get request. Now definitely we will be getting the response from the request, right? So that response also I have to use there in different separate methods. The very next step, you can see, we have to verify the response as well, right? And we have to verify the data as well, right? So how to do that? So to verifying the response, if I go inside of this step definition method here, you can see this is a step definition, and I'll change the variable name to status code. Okay. So this is the status code that I am going to verify. But for verifying the status code, I need the response, right, guys? So how do I can get the response? So that response we are getting here when we are doing the get request, right? So what we can do, actually, we can create another class level variable to store that response, right? So what I can say here, I can say response, and I'll giving it a name as a response. Now this is my class level variable. The class level object reference, I'll be assigning this value when I'm doing the get request call, right? So I'll say response is equals request dot get endpoint URL, right? Now once this API will get hit, then it will store the data into this particular response, and it is available throughout this particular class file. So anywhere in this particular class, anywhere in the method, inside of the method, we should be able to access this particular response, right? So what we can do here, we can now start verification. So let me print also, so I can see status code. And what we can do, actually, you can say response dot status code, response dot status code, right? And if you want, as here you can see, the test case is saying that I verify, so I have to do the verification part. So what I can do, we can use the assertion. So I'll be using testng assertion. So I'll say assert dot assert equals and I'll be passing that the actual value is nothing but my response dot status code, and my expected value is 200, right? That is what I am expecting here. Now to that is done that with this particular step verification. Okay, I have to verify the response also, right? So if I go to my here, this is you can say key, and this is something a value from the response I'm expecting, right? Sorry, here also this is the key of the response, and this is the value that uh, I want to validate, right? So how we can do that? So let's say I want to verify this by using JSON path itself, right? If you want, you can, go ahead with the verification with the Pojo also. I'll give another video for how to validate the response from Pojo class. For now, let's go ahead with the JSON path and how to verify this response, right, with this key. So I'll go to here step definition, and I'll see this is my key, or you can say JSON path, and this is the, you can say, expected value, right? Now here what I can do, actually I can convert the JSON response that we are getting to JSON path, right? So how to do that, that you guys already know. So I say JSON path is equals, what did we defined, okay, so it is already there. So I'll say JSON, instead of JSON path I'll say JSON key. Okay, so here I can say JSON path is equals response dot JSON path, sorry, response dot get string, get body, response dot get, what is the method name, I am not remembering right now. So response dot get, let me check there in our previous video. So if I go there, you can see JSON path, right? So we have to use similar approach. So we can say response dot JSON path, right? So we are done with this. Now once you are done with the creation of JSON path, now you can use that for verification, right? So what you can do, you can say JSON path dot get string, and you have to pass the JSON key, right? So I'll be passing the JSON key, it will return me the data, right? So this JSON data we can verify with the expected value whether it is correct or not, right? So how to do that? So we can directly use it inside of assertion. So I'll say assert dot assert equals, I have to pass the actual data. So this is something we're getting from the response, and I have to pass my expected data, right? This is my expected value. So once we are done with this, so what it will do, it will verify that okay, this is my expected value, and this is my actual value that I am getting from the response, right? So it will verify the data, and accordingly it will give us the test case execution result, right? So that's it for the implementation part. This is a very quick and short one, guys. So let's try to run the test case what we have here. So if I run this test case from this Cucumber file, feature file, so let's see what happened. Okay. So for now you can see I got the test case got executed, but nothing is printed. It looks like the code changes we have done that is not impacted, right? So this is a problem from this particular IntelliJ tool, guys. Um, Let me do one thing. Let me verify first, then we'll execute again. Okay, it is completed. Now let me run the test case once again. So if I go ahead and run this. Okay, now you can see we have hit the request and we got the response. I think there's something error. Expected is 200 but found expected is 200 but found something else, right? This is looks like, okay, go to my implementation. Here you can see we it is printed me response code is 200, but the problem is, guys, this status code, it is returning in integer format. If you see here, the type of the return type is integer, right? But here we are passing the data is 200, which is nothing but a you can see uh, a hard coded string type of value. So data mismatch type is there, so let me remove that, and we'll be using the status code we have visit here, right? Okay, sorry, that's my mistake. So what I now this time what is happen, actually it will be verifying with this integer type of data, and there shouldn't be any issue. Now let's run this program once again. Oh, it's once again it is not able to understand the changes, so let me go and do maven verify. Okay, so I'll be running the test case once again. Let's run it. Okay, now you can see that we have got the test case got successfully passed. You can see it is the status code is 200 and the verification we have given, that is also fine, right? So if there is any problem, let's say beauty instead of beauty, I'm expecting beauty one, so definitely the test will fail, right? So let's run this once again. Now you can see the data here, it is got failed, and you can see this is the expected and versus actual, right? So expected is beauty one and the actual, so that means our test case working fine. So what we can do, actually, let's remove this one, and now let's run the complete feature file, means both the scenarios I am going to execute, and let's see what is the result we are getting now, right? Okay, so first test case got passed and the second test case got failed. Let's see what happening. So second test case, you can see we got response code is 200, but the category, this is something we are getting different, right? You can see found null. Let's do one thing. Expected is this one, but we are not getting any response. So let's do one thing. Instead of just verify, we need to print the response what we are getting there, right? So go to my get request, and once we get the request, let's print the response body also. So I'll use sysout and I'll say response dot get body. Response, it should be response. Okay. Now I'll do maven clean once again. Maven verify. Okay. Now I'll run the feature file once again and see what is the happening. What is the result we are getting here. Now if I go to my second request, and this here we are printing the response of get body. Instead of get body, I'll say body get body dot pretty print. So I'll do verify and execute the test. Okay, so I'll be checking that response we are getting from the second request, what is happening there. So if I see the hit, and you can see we are getting something category, In this category we are getting mobile on accessories, right? And what we are expecting here, we were expecting mobile accessory itself, but here we are getting products, multiple products, right? And it is the key is product. Inside the product we have category, right? So the key is products. We are actually using the different key. If I run this particular test scenario single-handedly, then see what is the happening. Okay. So if you see, this is something is giving me one. This is the product. Inside of the product, we have an array of JSON. So inside of the array, we have this particular category key, right? So the key of this particular category should be products, and after that, I'll be having zeroth index, and I'll say dot category. Now it should get passed. See, now test case got executed and it got passed, right? Now if you execute the complete test, now see what happens. Okay. Now our both the test cases got passed. Awesome guys, right? So here you can see how we did integration of API automation with the Cucumber, how we have collaborated with all these steps, and how we have break down all these, the way we were writing test cases here in this, and how we have done with the breakdown into different cucumber steps, and how we have written the cucumber step definitions, right? That all the things that you have seen here. One more thing guys, you have to okay, I'll show you. Let's say here, what happening actually, if you want to pass multiple header values, right? So what we can do here, let's say I want to pass another header value. Instead of content, I'll say accept, right? So let's say I want to set two header value, two header information for this particular request. Then what we can do, right? So this is writing instead of this, multiple times I said header value this as this, and I said header value this and this. So this is not look good, right? So instead of that, why don't we use some other approach, right? I'm going to show you that other approach. So what we can do here, instead of writing this approach, we can use the Cucumber data table fashion. So what is data table now? I will going to describe that here in this particular video. So instead of this, what if I say, and and I said below values in header. What I say, if I set below values in header, and here I'll be taking a data table approach. Let's say I'm saying key, or you can say header key and header value. We can now here what you can do, we can add the data. Let's say my first header key is nothing but my content type, so I can use it over here, and instead of the value I can say this is my application slash JSON, right? Another one is my key is my accept, so I'll be using mentioning it over here, and value is my application slash JSON, right? So instead of using multiple times this, repeating the steps of setting header key and header values, isn't it good? Looks good that we define a data table and we said below values in header, right? So it doesn't matter that how many number of data you have, that you do not need to write multiple steps. Let's say for now I have used the two set of data, but in your case you can have many set of data, right? So if you have any number of set of test case data that you can pass it through using the data table. This is what called as a data table in Cucumber. There are a lot of type of data table, lot of structure are there. For now, this is like a map type of data table. Here we have, this is the key, and this is going to be a particular for this header key, this is the value, and this is for this key, this is the value. This is the first iteration, it will pick the first two row. First row is indicating the key, this is key for a map, and this is key for map. And on the next iteration, what it will do, it will pick first row and third row, right? So how inside of the code, it will pick one by one, and it will store the data in your map variable. We'll show the implementation here, how to implement those cases. Then new step definition for this. So I'll say create step definition, and I have to choose here which, instead of which step definition class you want to create this definition for. Now, right now I have only one step definition, so I'll choose this particular class file, and here I got this step definition on this one, right? This step now is got added here. Now if I go to my feature file, you can see now this yellow's that background has now go away. So we can this is something that we want to avoid. I do not want to write this particular two steps, so I'll be removing this. Instead of that, I want to use for this format, right? So if I go here, I'll be using this as a map. So what it will actually happen, this will be my key and this is value. This will be my key and this is value for a map. This is the first iteration, and second iteration, what it will do, it will pick this one is a key and this one is the value. This one is the key and this one is the value, right? In for the iteration there. So what we can do, go to my step definition, and here data table. This step has data table there in the associated with a data table, right? This is my data step, and which is associated with this particular data table. So in your step definition, you have to, instead of the uh, method signature, you have to say data table, let's say reference name is data table itself, right? So this data table reference is now going to hold the complete data table that you are using there inside your Cucumber feature, okay? And associated with this particular step definition, remember it guys, this, if you are associating any step definition with a data table, and that data table implementation should be there inside of this particular step definition, okay? You cannot access write it somewhere else in your feature file. So for now, I'll be having all the information that we have written there in the feature file inside of this particular data table reference. So what we can do, actually, we can use this data table reference. I'll say data table reference dot. If I say dot, you can see I'm getting lot of options. Here I'm getting as maps, I'm getting as map, I'm getting as list or as maps. All these things we are getting, right? So, but here what we want to go ahead, we are having multiple maps, right? Let me close this class. So here in the feature file, I will be having, this is my header key, and this is my value, right? So this is one set of data I have. Again, after that, I have another set of data, so that means I have multiple maps here, right? So for that reason, I'll be using here as maps, not map, okay? If you have only one set of data there, so you'll be using as map. If you are, if you have multiple set of data, at that time you have to use as maps, okay? So I'll be using it here. Now, what this as map returns to me? This returns to me a list type of data. This list type of data, which is still again contains map, right? So what I can do, I can just create a particular variable with this type, right? So I'll copy it from here itself, or you can write it by yourself. So let me write it. Okay, so what I can say, I'll take a list, and which is going to store map type of data, and this map type of data is again going to store string and key and string type of value, right? So this is something we are going to have, and let's provide a name. Let's say my uh, raw data, raw data. Okay, let me import this list also. Okay, now we are done with this raw data. We have stored the data we have received from the test case feature file, and with that is now stored inside of this raw data. Now, what I have to do, I have to traverse through this raw data. Okay, because this raw data is going to having multiple number of rows here, right? You can see multiple set of data. So to traverse, I can use the for loop or any other iterator you can use. So for me, for now, let me use for loop. I'll be using advanced for loop. So let's see map, and this map is going to have string type of data and string type of value. I'll be giving a name as a, let's say, uh, row. Okay, and I'll say raw data. Okay, and here you can see that map for each and every, this is one set of data, this row is we will be the one set of data. So first iteration, I'll be having this header key as a key and this is a value. So this is a key and this is a value. Okay, so I'll go to my here. I okay, what I can do actually in the first iteration, here we can say that string, I have to fetch the data of this particular header. This is my header key. I have to fetch this data. So my key for this table, my headers are fixed, right? These values are fixed, but these are going to be changed. So to get this data from this particular map, what I can do, I can call with this particular key, right? So this is my key. So what I can say, uh, or you can give name as a map, that will be more sensible, right? I'll give it as a map. So I'll say map dot get, and I'll pass the header name. So it is going to return me the value of this particular header. So what is the value? It is nothing but type, right? And that I need to set into my uh, header information. So to set the header information, I need to have a map which is going to hold the data for my JSON response, right? So what you can do actually, go to my here. Let me create another variable class level. So I'll create an map, and that is going to store string and string type data and string type value, and I'll say headers map. Okay, sorry, headers map is equal to new hash map. Okay, so I have created one hash map, and inside of this hash map I am going to store the data. Okay, so what I can say here, this is my this is something which is going to return me the key for my for my header, right? This is the key for header, and this is going to be value for my header, right? So what I can say, uh, so I can say hash map header map dot put. I have to pass the key. So the key is nothing but my map dot get, and this is my key. So I'll say map dot get. This is going to store the key, and I'll say hasmap dot get, and I have to use the key for my value. So this is my value, uh, key for value. So I'll be using this. Okay, so we are done with the set for the key and value. So it will the number of SQL data, the number of iteration data, the number of set of data you have, it will traverse to the data, and it will store into this particular headers map. Right now, this header map is now going to hold all the data map, all the maps that you are passing from your JSON, your feature file. Right now, that is done from here my perspective. And now what we can do, once I am done with this, what we can say, I just set the request. So I'll say request dot headers, and here you can say the I have to pass the headers map object. So I'll set the headers map object, right? So once it is done, now what we can do actually, This is header map we have done with the setup. That's done from the that's all for this request, right? We are done with the setup. Then rest of the part is going to be same. I do not have to change anywhere. So let's run this particular method scenario and see what happens. Let me quickly verify Maven. So let me run the test once again. If I see run scenario, now you can see we're done with the header map setup, and we hit the get request and we got the response. Everything is worked successfully, right? Everything was fine. So this is how we have to use, or this I with this actually I have discussed with you what is headers, and how to set up multiple values, set up multiple header values, right? And also I have introduced with the data table in Cucumber, what is data table and how to implement the data table, right? Those are the things I have already discussed. Although there are different other types of data table also, this is one of the data table that can be used in the project, right? So there are other type of data tables, so their implementation is going to be different also. Okay, guys. So this approach, I hope you have understand this approach, and this video is also getting very long, so I'll release another video for doing the setup of runner class, and after that we will also see how to implement Cucumber. You can say extend report, how to do this, so that we can see this is looks like a complete development. We have running the test cases, and we have created the feature files, and we configured that into a runner class, and we also configured the reporting feature, right? So those things we are going to see in our next video. Till then, stay happy, guys, and thank you for uh, joining us. Okay, and stay happy, keep learning. Thank you, guys. Bye.